All the others are probably going to be 20, 25 minutes-ish each day. And I mean, there's really no reason why you have to watch while you listen. So you can, by all means, get out there and move around or listen while you do other things. But I do need to encourage you to do your best to remain undistracted, because as you're going to see very soon, these concepts are probably going to be epiphanies for you. And in many cases, things that you've never heard anywhere else. And they're going to be not the easiest things to wrap your head around the first time. So try to give us as much of your attention as you possibly can and try to stay with us. All right, let's start getting into the meat of this thing. So why do we quit taking care of ourselves? That question has become the question that drives my entire career. I have a public podcast called A Moment of Weakless. You can go check that out and listen to episode 1 and hear my backstory. But I've been in and around the health, weight loss, exercise industry for around a couple of decades now. And I came to a place where I created the Holy Grail. I created a diet, and it worked like a miracle. Like a miracle. I was just swimming in before and after pictures. People were freaking out, and everybody quit. And when they quit, they would come back and ask me why they quit. Everything worked, and I felt great, and it wasn't making me feel physically bad, and I just quit anyway. I don't understand. Why did I quit? And it was this rude awakening for me when I realized that this wasn't ever going to be about diets, and in reality, it wasn't even about bodies, that everybody was getting it wrong, and I needed to dig in. So I started asking the question, why do people quit taking care of themselves? Why do people quit taking care of themselves when it's working, when what they're doing is producing the results they've always said they wanted? In most cases, I found myself working with people that had battled with themselves and their bodies since puberty and maybe even before, and yet they would still quit. That became the only question that mattered, and it didn't seem like anybody was asking it. Now, that was a long and meandering path, and it took me a lot of years to get to where I'm at now with the understanding that I have now, but discomfort ended up being the big rock in the beginning, the big rock that people had to get around. It was the first big obstacle. And so it became sort of the entry point that I put in my career, where if people wanted to come work with me, this was the thing we were going to have to get out of the way first. And please note that people like to say that they failed, and then they like to say things like, I hope this works for me. I hear that constantly. Some of you have probably already typed it in the group. I hope this works for me. I'm so desperate, and I've failed lots of times in the past. And you've probably never failed, not even once, when it comes to anything that resembles self-care. Because the only way that failure could happen that I can think of is that if you did like a diet, for example, like a weight loss diet, and it was deleterious to your health, like you were starving yourself, and eventually, even after you stuck to it perfectly, you were forced to quit because your health got so bad. That's the only way I could see you using the word failure, but it would really be that the plan you were on failed you. In reality, when people say they failed, what they really mean is I always quit. I always give up. I talk myself into quitting, and it's some kind of thought, and those thoughts are always about something to do with discomfort. This is too hard. This isn't going to work for me anyway because I'm not one of those people. Something like that. And then you factor in that the way that people quit is usually not to say, I just don't want to do this diet anymore. It's that they say, in this moment, I don't want to feel all the crap I'm feeling from all the thoughts that I've been thinking all day. So I'm going to go ahead and eat these cookies or drink this wine in order to feel better. And for those people, food is their drug. They're emotional eaters. And that's going to sum up probably almost everybody watching this video, even the people that think that they eat those things for flavor. If you were to track when that happens, you're pretty consistently going to find that it happens during times of anxiety or boredom, or after lots of self-deprecation, or during stressful times. And what is that? It's you running away from discomfort. You can't control your thoughts. There are only two things. Mark this down. This is super important. One of the most important things I'm ever going to teach you. There are only two things that cause emotions, and those are thoughts and hormones. Thoughts and hormones are the only things that cause emotions. So what that means is, even when your dog dies and you're sad, your dog dying didn't make you sad. It works in the semantics. When we talk to people, we can say, I'm sad because my dog died. But we know that your dog dying didn't make you sad, because if your dog died 3 hours before you found out that your dog died, you weren't suddenly hit with this unknown sadness. I don't know where this is coming from, but now I am sad because my dog died, making me sad even though I don't know it. So you have to know these things, have thoughts about them, and then process them. That's how we get emotions, and most people do a really bad job of controlling their thoughts, and they don't spend any time working on it because they spend all their time running away from it. So at the end of the day, like I said, stress, worry, self-deprecation, perfectionism, rumination, whatever it is, you are running away from these uncomfortable situations, and you're probably running away to your favorite drug, which for most people is going to be junk food or alcohol. So as you can see, what I'm already explaining to you, and we're going to be talking about this all week, but what I'm already explaining to you is that diets aren't the answer. Weight loss attempts aren't the answer. They're not going to solve issues with thoughts. And if you are constantly running away from discomfort back to your comfort zone, you are stuck. You don't get to learn and grow. All growth, all really valuable growth, will happen outside your comfort zone where you're making a lot of mistakes, and we're going to go into all the details of how all of that is going to unfold over the course of this week, so that you can, like I said, probably do self-care for the first time ever, but also do it consistently. So what do I mean when I say self-care, and why do I think that most people have probably never done it? By my definition, I would say that self-care is a question. It is, how can I take the best possible care of myself in this moment? It isn't a list of rules that you follow for a long period of time to get to some place. And if we're going to be perfectly honest, I just don't think that there is any real way to do weight loss as self-care. Because, well, weight loss goals are pretty much always self-abuse in my experience. What do I mean by that? Okay, if you are like the average person that's here in this group right now, you have probably been spending your life at war with your body, trying to change the way it looks. And you're basically saying that this body isn't good enough, it needs to change. And your plan would look something like this. So I want you to pretend that you have a little daughter. Maybe you do right now, but let's pretend that you have like a 7-year-old daughter. Tomorrow morning, when she wakes up, first time you see her, I want you to look at her and have this conversation. Your shoulders just slump and you go, oh, God, look at you. How did you let yourself get this way? Man, when we're around other kids, they're all judging you, and they should be. I mean, you're in terrible shape. You look awful, and it's really important that everybody else likes you, but they don't, because you look like this. But there's hope. There's hope. I'm going to get you a good breakfast, and then I'm going to get you a good lunch and a good dinner. And we're going to repeat that for a few weeks. And then when we're done, we'll run you over to the scale and we'll see if I love you yet. And there's the first mic drop moment of Weekless Week. That is the exact plan that almost everybody who comes to me is on. It's abusive. It's not self-care. It's, you have to do all these things that you probably don't want to do because you suck. You need to change yourself into something that will finally be good enough. And it isn't even chasing awesome. You're not trying to be awesome. You're just trying to not be the thing that you are now because you hate that thing. And so everything that you do ends up being not only super uncomfortable physically, but super uncomfortable psychologically. For example, why did you pass on the cake and instead eat that healthy dinner? Is it because that healthy dinner is like a love note to yourself and you just really value taking care of yourself? You value having really high quality of life? No, you couldn't eat the cake. You have to eat the healthy dinner, because if you eat the cake, you're going to continue to suck. So everything you do that looks like self-care from the outside is actually just more of an insult. You go to the gym, why? Because you value being strong, you value having high muscle mass and living a really long time, feeling great, having a body that you don't need to ask permission for everything that you want to do physically in your life? No, you have to come here. You have to come here because you're not good enough the way you are. So every single thing that you do on that list of rules to get to some extrinsic motivation destination, everything is another insult. Personally, I have some of the highest self-discipline of anybody I know, and I would quit that plan inside of a week. I'm not going to abuse myself with every decision that I make regarding my body for weeks on end. I'm going to quit that. Why? Because I'm suffering. I want my hand off that hot burner. I don't want to continue to suffer like this. And the suffering that I was doing before, hating myself, at least it's familiar. So I can stick it out. I can go back to that because, well, it sucks, but that's just the way it is. It's just the way I am. And at least it's familiar. At least it's a suffering that isn't new. I'm not piling on top of that where I dislike myself and I'm throwing in further insults with all this stuff that I'm trying to call self-care. And here we have come to the biggest, number one reason why people quit. They quit because they are trying to fix themselves, not take care of themselves. And those people that are trying to fix themselves, well, they're always going to move the goalpost anyway, never quite get there. You could lose 100 pounds, and yeah, maybe you're not complaining about the weight anymore, but now you're going to complain about your stretch marks. And there are still people out there that are better than you because they're prettier than you, in your opinion. So it's just ongoing. There's no way out of it. I've never seen anybody get out of it long term. I've seen people lose lots of weight on that path, and they're, the women that are in the gym at 5 o'clock in the morning for 2 hours of cardio with their makeup and hair done, because despite the fact that they weigh less than most of the other women that come to the gym, the scale still tells them every day whether or not they're valuable. If they gain 1 pound, they're going to have a day where they have to feel bad and feel guilty and feel like they're less worthy. And if they lose a pound, well, today I get to be happy. And there's no way out of this. There's no point in which a person gets to actual intrinsic motivations. I like being me. I like my life. So I take really good care of me to make my life as awesome as it can possibly be. And please note that I said earlier that my career spans just about 2 decades. I have yet to find this a single time. If it's out there, if there's a person out there like that, she or he is a unicorn that I have not encountered yet. It's miserable, and it never stops being miserable because it was never about your body. The problem was never about your body. It was always about your thoughts. Why does your body look that way? Because of your thoughts. How come you can't make progress? Because of your thoughts. And this is where a lot of people like to say, yeah, but I can't change my thoughts until I change my body. How could I possibly like myself like this? And remember, we said earlier, those emotions that are causing you suffering, they only come from 2 things. We didn't say anything about them coming from sizes of butts. We didn't say anything about pant size. We didn't say anything about a number on the scale. We said all emotions come from either thoughts or hormones. Scientifically speaking, end of discussion. And it's easy to prove that concept too, because you sometimes can be distracted and laughing and having a good time, and then see yourself in a mirror and have an hour of self-deprecation in your mind where you feel like crap. And when you looked in that mirror, you didn't suddenly gain a bunch of weight. Your body was like that the whole time. So what changed? Your thoughts. You weren't suffering that entire time unless you're in physical pain. You were suffering because you think things. So as long as you think those things, you are going to continue to get in your own way, and you will never be able to actually do self-care, which will mean pulling out all of the self-abuse, the stuff that you would never do to anybody else. What I'm laying out for you here is a lot of discomfort. You're going to have to change your relationship with discomfort to quit running away from the thoughts that are keeping you from making progress, so that you can work on the thoughts, finally work on the right part of the equation, and address the elephant in the room so that you can take care of yourself for the rest of your life. Now, unfortunately, I've got a bit of bad news for you. I, in my career, have a 95% failure rate. And that isn't because of anything that I do. And it isn't unique to my career. There are 2 different motivation categories out there, and those are people that are intrinsically motivated and people that are extrinsically motivated. And this statistic of 95% appears to cover everything that requires an intrinsic motivation in order to be successful at it. For example, 95% of people that pick up a new instrument will quit before they ever say, I can play the piano, for example. And 95% of people that learn a new language or start learning a new language will never reach fluency. 95% of people who read any self-help book won't end up long-term applying anything in that book. This stuff is just rampant. And the reason why is because despite the fact that we work really, really hard to never let anybody else down, we're really good at letting ourselves down. And unfortunately, that means that 95% of you are going to end up quitting, and I'm probably never going to affect that statistic in my life. Now, please understand that we're talking about motivation levels. We're not talking about what people do. If you came to Weekless Week because all you want is for me to help you figure out how to be uncomfortable enough to walk more each day, well, you could easily be in the 5% category for that, because your motivations would say, I'm going to go do this thing because I think it will be good for me and I'm not going to let myself down. But using weight loss as an example, the people in the 95% are those fixers. I like to call them fixers. They're the people who are doing all of this to try to fix themselves. They think they're broken. When they look in the mirror and they see body fat, they think they're looking at themselves. That body fat is what I am, not something that I own, something that I am, and it makes me bad. It has to be repaired for me to not be bad anymore. Again, I just explained why those people are going to quit. But the 5% are those people that are just intrinsically motivated. They'll look in the mirror and they'll see that body fat and they'll say, I want to get rid of that body fat. And it'll usually be tied to health or in some way that the body fat is getting in the way of things that they want to do. And they'll go get rid of it by doing work that doesn't involve a bunch of self-sabotage, because they're going to go get to work on that the same way you might go clean out your garage. You don't think that if you clean out your garage, you're going to somehow be more valuable. I don't know. There might be people here that self-deprecate so much that when they look at messy places in their life, they tell themselves that they're terrible for that. But nonetheless, my point is they will just go do things, and they understand that they're doing things in their life to change something that they own, not something that they are. What they are is always going to be the same. That's fine. I'm me. I don't really even know what that is. It's really hard to define, but I'm definitely not any of the things that I do, and I'm definitely not any of the things that I own. I'm not my body. I'm not my thoughts. I mean, these are all things that I either do or own. So I focus on having an amazing life, and being more healthy would facilitate that. So let's get to work on that. And they go out there and they do things and they get results very quickly, and they don't need me for very long. Why would I give you bad news like this on the very first day of Weekless Week? Because I'm throwing down the gauntlet. I'm challenging you. I already explained to you that you cannot fail. That's impossible. Try to go back and think of a time when you failed. What you will always be describing is quitting. You always quit. And what I'm also describing is the right types of motivations that it takes in order to not quit and to do this stuff for the right reasons for the rest of your life. So running over to the scale after this video, or even running to the gym and powering through some lifting or changing the way you eat today because you need to hurry up and lose weight, is always going to be a bad idea. It's more self-abuse, and you're going to quit soon, just like you always did in the past. But on the flip side, you can commit to changing your mindset. You can commit to working hard on what you think of you and your beliefs of you, and staying uncomfortable long enough to do that work, and not constantly running away at the first sign of discomfort back into your comfort zone where you're keeping yourself the same. You can commit to getting to work on the things that matter, and then actually doing self-care, probably for the first time, and doing it forever. That's the only way consistency is really going to happen and produce happiness. As you can probably already tell, I am not a cheerleader. I'm not here to get you all excited. Excitement won't last. It will not last. Willpower and excitement cannot be the way that you do these things. Your motivations and your thoughts have to be right. And after these couple of decades, I have found that this is the only way that it works out long term. There are people out there making this stuff look easy, and if you were to really dig into those people's minds, you would find that they are people in that 5%. They're intrinsically motivated to do things that they find value in, and they're not trying to figure out how to become somebody that they can stop hating, or that other people will approve of often enough that they can finally like themselves for a few minutes before they need to go out and seek more approval. And like I said, these are people that will be making it look easy. What I've also been describing here is a really, really uncomfortable path. And of course, you already know that the physical discomfort is pretty high too. Your body's in homeostasis right now, if you're not doing anything brand new right now. And when you try to change what you're doing, your body's gonna go, what the heck? We've been doing what you told us to do. And now you wanna change? And you're gonna have cravings and soreness. And in the meantime, you're gonna be losing your favorite drug. So you're gonna be stuck with those abusive thoughts, getting beat up by that bully that lives in your head. It's all extremely uncomfortable. We have to learn to run at that discomfort, or we have to get used to quitting over and over again. And if you know you're going to quit over and over again, and nobody should know that, that would be a decision that could be made in any moment. But if I knew that you were going to quit over and over again because I could see into the future, I would probably just tell you to stop trying. Because every time you quit, you let yourself down. You said you were going to do something, you didn't follow through. Your relationship with yourself takes another hit, just like any other relationship would. If you have a friend who constantly lets you down, I'd be willing to bet that unless you really, really dislike yourself and think that that's what you deserve, that friend is not your best friend. Relationships like that can never be awesome because somebody isn't holding up their end of the bargain. And this is what virtually everybody does to themselves in this traditional, I need to fix myself weight loss plan. And if you think about it, everybody knows what to do. It's super interesting. If you stopped anybody on the street, they were overweight, out of shape, and you asked them how they got there, they'll tell you exactly how they got there. Well, I eat ice cream every night after dinner. Every morning I drink a Starbucks caramel macchiato. I don't move very much. I haven't worked out since high school. I stay up way too late. Okay, well, what are you gonna do to fix that? I think I'll do the keto diet, or I'll go vegan. And it's some super complicated system when they just told you what the problem is. It's crazy how diet-minded we've become, when really the answers are things that virtually everybody knows on the street. Everybody knows what junk food is, for example. The diets all argue about what's junk food in their diet, but nobody's saying pizza and ice cream aren't junk food. Everybody knows what to do, which of course highlights that question again. Why do they always quit? So that's what we're gonna be working on this week. Now, let's get into the assignments that I've got for you. There are 5 assignments that we are going to do every single day, all 5 assignments. So hopefully that's clear. We're not getting new assignments tomorrow. It's important that we try to put together some consistency with these assignments so that they can teach us as much as they can possibly teach us by the end of this week as we continue to talk through all of this stuff, because I've got a lot more information coming, and all of this was just the intro. We're going to start with the most difficult one, the one that you're probably going to hear the most about in the group over the course of this week. And we're starting there because I don't want to waste any more of your time. If you're not going to make yourself do this, I appreciate you stopping by and listening to the first day's video, but you're probably going to not get too much out of this if you're not willing to actually try to do these hard things. For our first assignment, when you take your next shower, you are going to get to the end of the shower, turn your water all the way to cold. Once the water is actually cold, you are going to count for 10 seconds, and then you're going to turn it off. And it is going to be miserable. I've been doing it for years. I have a cold plunge that I made in my basement that gets to 34 degrees, and I've spent as much as 10 minutes in it. There are cold plunges in tons of health spas around the country right now. Lots of people doing it for lots of health benefits, but it never stops being miserable. I wouldn't say I've gotten used to it more than maybe 5%. It always sucks. If that's not something you're willing to do, well, like I said, this probably isn't going to be the right plan for you. If you can't handle 10 seconds of freezing cold water on your skin, you don't stand a chance against a week of hardcore cravings and that bully that's been beating you up in your mind for most of your life. So this one is important, and we inevitably, if I didn't say this, we'd probably hear it in the group. We'd hear somebody say, I tried for 10 seconds, but I only made it 4 seconds, or I only made it 6 seconds. And upon further examination, what do you mean you only made it for 6 seconds? The story would have to be something like, I turned the water to cold, somebody tackled me and pulled me out. No, what you mean is, I quit. It was hard, so I quit. I reached out and turned the water back to warm, or turned it all the way off. I quit. This is going to be the first place where you're really going to want to quit. Are you going to quit, or are you going to be weakless? Now, if you have a medical condition, something wrong with your heart, You might want to check with your doctor before you do this, but I think in most cases, in my experience, doctors have cleared these kinds of things. We aren't seeing people dropping dead of heart attacks left and right in all of these health spas out there that are doing these cold plunges. Overall, it seems to be really super healthy. And if somebody asks in the group, we can post a post with all the health benefits. But I highly encourage you to not do this for the health benefits. I'm not here to teach you how to be healthy right now. That's next. What we're here to do is learn how to take really good care of ourselves because we can handle discomfort. So if you're thinking, I don't know, I mean, it's got to be really healthy or I don't want to do it. Well, you're in a group here called Weakless Week. We're trying to be uncomfortable and okay with it. We're trying to learn how to run at discomfort. Do it because it's uncomfortable. Yes, super good for you. Who cares? Do it because it's hard. Our next assignment is a little easier to understand, but far harder to pull off, and that is no complaining. And we don't mean complaining out loud. We mean every time you utter a complaint in your mind, that cold water in your shower is going to probably try to instigate some complaining. Complaining never helps you with anything. It's in countless memes. I don't need to say this out loud. It always just robs you of your moments. You can absolutely get out there and do things and problem solve and conquer the world without complaining. You can go through really hard things without complaining. When you're complaining, you're deciding that I got to go through these really hard things, but I can make it worse. I'm going to go ahead and complain too and suffer even more emotionally. Let's do that. So we aren't going to complain to the best of our ability. Nobody's going to get that perfect. I don't think I've lived a day on this planet yet without some kind of complaint. But if you can remove 50% of your overall complaining, again, in your head, not just out loud, there's nobody that could argue that that wouldn't be a substantially better day. And complaining is the stuff that sets up the suffering that makes you want to run away. So if you can stop complaining, you're going to want to run away less, and you're just going to be able to do things, and you'll be able to be outside of your comfort zone far more often, far longer, thereby widening that comfort zone so you can actually be more comfortable. When you have a bigger comfort zone, more things that happen in your life will fall within that comfort zone, and you're not constantly having to run away to cookies or wine, some sort of junk food in order to feel better. Our third assignment is unentertained time. You are going to set a timer on your phone for 10 minutes, put your phone out of the way where you're sitting someplace relatively boring. I've done it staring at a wall before, but you can do it in your backyard, provided your backyard isn't super entertaining with a bunch of birds and squirrels playing. And the idea is to get an opportunity to look at what your mind does when you're not paying attention. Some of you are going to freak out. You're going to immediately start being mean to yourself. And this is super valuable information to have. Do you want to be that person? Do you want to be that person who constantly has to have inputs? Because if you don't, you'll start punching yourself in the face. Do you really want to live your life that way? Well, this is going to be an opportunity to start to look. All we're going to be doing is looking. We're going to just see what our minds do. When you sit down, do you immediately say, oh my God, okay, I got to do this, but this is dumb. In 10 minutes, I got to get up and go do that other thing. And okay, you're probably a person who thinks about your to-do list all day long because God forbid you don't get something done. You might let somebody down, then they won't like you. And then they'll finally find out that you were as bad as you say you are and blah, 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 blah. And it's just pain. Is that what happens when you sit down unentertained? Do you have to be entertained in order to avoid that bully that lives in your head? You're going to find out this week. And when you find out, I hope it makes you go, oh, hell no, I'm not living my life like this. Our fourth assignment is that we aren't going to eat any junk food. Jason, what's junk food? Look up Google Images. In Google Images, look up junk food. It's that stuff. It's ice cream and candy and pizza and fries. It's potato chips. You know what it is. Junk food, not the dieting mentality. And I know that's going to be difficult for some of you who have been on and off diets for your entire adult life. No, actual junk food, the stuff that everybody would say is junk food. Don't eat that for this week. That's it. That's all you're going to do. You're just going to eliminate those things that we all know are junk food. Use your judgment. You're not here to do a diet with us. The only reason that this assignment is in here is because we're trying to take away your favorite drug so that you have to look at the discomfort that you're creating in your thoughts. That's it. Let's do it. And finally, for our fifth assignment, we are going to eliminate all snacking. No more than 3 meals in a day. Try to do that without reducing your calories. Try to do it so that you're just consolidating all of your food into no more than 3 meals. Again, this isn't about dieting. This isn't something I'm telling you to do so that at the end of the week you can jump on a scale and see if you're valuable yet. The idea is to, again, take away food in general, not just junk food, but food in general from the emotional eaters. You can't eat when you feel things. That's what we're going to be doing this week. Those are the 5 assignments. Once again, they are 10 seconds of cold water in your shower, no complaining, unentertained time for 10 minutes, no junk food, and no snacking. We're going to do each of those 5 assignments every single day for this entire week, and we're going to be talking about them as we go way, way deeper on all of these concepts beginning tomorrow. Okay, I'm going to leave you right there. I'm not going to tell you anything else. Go out and do those assignments with just the information that I gave you. You're in large part going to be flying blind, but that's the point. We're going to start learning things tomorrow in tomorrow's video that are going to take the lessons that you're learning here and start applying them elsewhere in your life, and especially to self-care. Like I said, this is the long video. I think I'll be able to keep all the others a bit shorter. I appreciate you sticking it out to the end. I'm super glad that you're all here with me, and I can't wait to see what